Mixed with my earlier passion of visual research, I see my photographs as visual narratives. Making my images is an intentional, reflective, active human process, and this process doesn't have to end once I've pressed the shutter button. In my visual narrative work, I strive for a chamber-like quality to create feelings. Beyond the purely physical aspects, I sequence my visual narrative work with obvious or subtle evidence about how my photographs relate to each other. Often, I don't have a single element that stands out as being the subject. So just as in contrapuntal music and poetry, every part is important. And anything contrapuntal has to do with counterpoint. In my member showcase, I'm attempting to show the temporal shifts between the two parts of my fixed diptychs and triptychs, to pose wonders as an image maker for viewers, to make meaning of experience visually and narratively. Street photography is improvisation in the streets. Capturing real moments of life on the streets is one way of making them live on. I feel this is what has hooked me to street photography in the first place. I've played with my images by expanding an isolated subject, by interweaving multiple moments which support a contrapuntal improvisation. I think about, how does this compare to that? How is this alike or different? How do these two things interact with each other? What holds these two things together? Some recent photographers I've been following are Nina Welsh-Kling and Joachim Muller, who are both masters of framing multiple images together. However, rather than implying similarities or contrasts, their diptychs portray two ways of looking at the same subject, or two aspects of the same subject. Photographs which next to each other imply some kind of duality, binary, polarity, or analogy. My attention is drawn to what happens when we carry the intimacy of the 2 or 3 photographs even further without the use of Photoshop. The meaning of their juxtaposition may be obvious, yet in other cases I find myself pondering, what was I seeing as this delightful puzzle that challenges my realm of intellect, imagination, and feeling? I am made and remade continually. Different people draw different words from me. In art, counterpoints add balance and harmony, both of which can be accomplished through color, shapes, line, or even contrasting elements such as lights and darks. In photography, counterpoint composition is no different than traditional art. However, we find natural means within the world around us and compose the scene in such a way to balance it and highlight it to what we wish to show. In my own photography, I seek to balance my scenes. I attempt to weigh my composition before I take my shot. I aim to naturally balance the scene so that when the viewers step back, they don't need to lean from one side to the other, trying to find the right way to view it. My hope is to accomplish balance by choosing scenes with highlights and shadows, natural lines, and through natural framing. If nothing changes, then nothing changes. So, if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you keep doing what you're doing now, then can anything different come from it? I don't look at a scene and think how to balance it. I feel it. I close my eyes and I try to see what I am trying to accomplish. I see a scene as it rests before me. I feel it. I dream it. I think about how I can change my perspective by adding emphasis to my subject. I imagine ways that utilize counterpoints within my story to highlight my intended focus. For me, this is a critical component to photography, which isn't learned as much as it is felt. It's all practice. Sometimes I can step into a scene and immediately know what to do with it. Just as contrapuntal poetic forms interweave two or more poems to make one, reading 2 or 3 images contrapuntally means to interpret an image not as a univocal or harmonious storyline, but rather as several possibilities depending upon our own narrative threads of experience. So come to the pond, or the river of your imagination, or the harbor of your longing, and put your lips to the world, and live your life. Here I am exploring a contrapuntal photograph that interweaves 2 photos to create a single image that were composed on the same day to tell a story. All diptychs can be read in multiple ways depending on how viewers perceive them. By pushing the limitations of a singular vision towards a more fluid and complex perspective by interweaving multiple moments. I am always searching for my signature, knowing my narrative beginnings. Dolls are timeless and important toys in play, offering numerous benefits, such as imaginative play, communication skills, and problem-solving abilities. I think about dolls and Grace Banks's book, Play With Me, Dolls, Women, and Art, as I continue to explore body politics and gender in contemporary culture and art. When I speak of poetry, I am not thinking of it as a genre. Poetry is an awareness of the world, a particular way of relating to reality. So poetry becomes a philosophy to guide us throughout our life. 2 opposing ideas working in harmony, perhaps meant to make us feel uneasy. Since ancient times, dolls have played a central role in magic and religious rituals and have been used as representations of deities. But by the very nature of creating work, I'm trying to introduce a new dialogue of how women might be portrayed in culture. I took these words from Edith Wharton as a metaphorical meaning. The window would be symbolic of opening oneself, or one's heart up. To set wide would be to open oneself fully to the possibilities of life. Drinking in the day to me means taking in all the parts that the day may offer, just as life itself offers us to open up to all the experiences, and that to open oneself up to take in essentially renders one vulnerable. How much better is silence, the coffee cup, the table? How much better to sit by myself, like a solitary seabird that opens its wings on the stake. Let me sit here forever with the bearing of things, the coffee cup, this knife, this fork, things in themselves, myself being myself. In photography, counterpoint composition is no different than traditional art. However, we find natural means within the world around us and compose the scene in such a way to balance it and highlight what we wish to show. In About Looking, John Berger explores our role as observers to reveal new layers of meaning in what we see. Is our intention as observers to reveal new layers of meaning in what we see? by pairing or stacking photographs that produce diptychs and triptychs that talk to each other through color, shape, and rhyme. Choice is creation. To choose is to create. Through my choices, I create my reality. At every moment in my life, I have a choice. Moments add up to a lifetime. Choices add up to a life. What kind of life do I want for myself? What choices will create this kind of life?